What's up, y'all? This is Qaysean Williams. I'm from Next in Fashion Season 2, and I'm a product of self-love, and I'm a product of determination and discipline. And this is my interview for We Are Jersey magazine. My name is Qaysean Williams. I am a fashion and costume designer born and raised in Trenton, New Jersey. A lot of the things that I work on is custom design or bespoke pieces. The one-of-one pieces that we consider bizarre or out of this world. People ask me, like, how did I get started in fashion? Being a kid with a disability, all my childhood, I was dealing with like teasing and the bullying because of my arm. When I started tapping into my personal style, it was so I can blend in with everybody else and not be so standoutish. And then later on, I started working for the Boys and Girls Club, and we produced a show for the kids on like a regular extracurricular activity type of a thing, and it was a success. And for me, that was the first time that I realized that there was something that I could do that didn't necessarily require me thinking, how can I do this using two hands? So like as a kid growing up, I always thought, like, what was I going to be able to do as an adult? Because there was no representation of people like me on TV and different careers. So for me, my whole entire future was a mystery. And when I found fashion, or when fashion found me, as I always like to say, that's when I knew like I had something there. And people talked about what I produced as opposed to my arm. And for me, like, that was all I wanted. Love yourself. That was something that I didn't know I needed to find. And it was to the point where one day I was just like, my back was against the wall, and I didn't like what I saw in the mirror. And forever I was always questioning God, like, why me? What did I do? Like, I can't even navigate the world properly. So as I began to just learn to like love myself, appreciate myself, pour into myself, and surround myself with amazing people in amazing places, and it just continued to elevate me and enlighten me. So to everybody out there, man, you have to love yourself first, because if you don't love yourself, how in the hell are you gonna love somebody else? In the name of Mother RuPaul.
Yes, yes.
Sure. I think for me personally, one of the biggest misconceptions was that I didn't sew my own clothing. And I took it as an offense at first, and then I realized how much of a compliment it was, because I was sewing using only one hand, and the quality of the work that was produced because of that. I was like, okay, I get it. See, you have to see it to believe it. It was that type of situation. That's one of the biggest ones. Another one I think is that all we care about is fat. Like, it's so surface level when it's really not. So like I said earlier, fashion found me. How I communicate with fashion is it speaks a language that words can't express for me. And for me, fashion is so universal because I can communicate who I am to anybody in the world, and I don't have to speak to you, but you can see the things that I wear and you'll know something about me or who I am. And that goes for any and everybody, no matter if you're a fashion person or not. So I think that when it comes to fashion, people think it's so surface level, and it may be for some people, but for me, fashion was something that helped me find myself, and it's a source of light, love, inspiration for me. So for so long, I felt like I was misunderstood. And then now, as I step into this fashion sector, I feel like I can walk into any space and I can connect with anybody. And I've seen it. It's like magic. One of my most gratifying moments in my career to date has been Next in Fashion Season 2 on Netflix, which is out now. I want the world to see it for many reasons. For one, for visibility for people in the disability community that's in fashion, because what is important that I've learned was about adaptive fashion. So a lot of people don't know what adaptive fashion is. And adaptive fashion is for fashion for people with disabilities. And designers think that people with disabilities don't like fashion. So they try to exclude them from the mainstream conversation when it comes to fashion. But that's not true. Look at me. Listen, I love fashion, and there's so many people like that. So the representation of that was so amazing for me. But the gratitude of it all, the learning experience that I had from being on Next in Fashion, and just learning how to love myself more. Like I said earlier, self-love, and what I learned too is self-love is an everyday process. It's like you can learn all the steps, but you have to implement them every single day. And on the show, I had to step into my self-love then, and it was doubt and self-love, and it was at a head because I was at one of the highest points of my career at the time. And it was like, now this is what you've been fighting for. And so I'm so grateful for that, because it taught me how to trust myself more. And once I finished filming the show, like I said, I went out into the world. I met Wintour. I was in front row of Vogue. I've been featured in Vogue maybe 4 or 5 times. I'm in British Vogue, American Vogue, featured in CFDA. So, I'm in these esteemed fashion places now. And really it was because once I left the show, I knew that I had to put in that work, because it could have been somebody else. I think about that all the time. It was thousands and thousands of applicants. I was 12 out of thousands. And on top of that, I was ready. I was ready to be on camera. I was ready for the attention that the world was going to give, and not in a superficial way, but just being able to handle it. Because when you're being put in front of the world, you have to be ready for judgment. You have to be ready for scrutiny. You have to be ready for all kinds of things. And I know I show up as an individual who represent the LGBTQIA plus community, and I'm a Black man, and I'm a person with disability. So I know I come with a lot. It ain't a lot to me, but I understand what the world gives sometimes, the temperature of the world. So, but being on that stage, I knew I was ready. Everything in life, from a kid being teased and not knowing who I am, not loving myself, not seeing representation, I knew that in that moment, being in front of that TV screen, that everything that I didn't see, everything that I experienced, that was why I was here today. That's why I'm able to move with life now gracefully.